What's up? Hey, hello, everyone. Wow, so today we are back going to be talking about Survivor South Africa Season 8, Immunity Island, Episode 9. So, my name is Rachel.
I'm Alyssa, and I had high hopes for this episode because I feel like last episode was pretty good, but this episode I feel like disappointed me again, and it was kind of just boring. And Rachel and I were talking about this before the stream started, but I feel like one of the reasons these episodes end up being so eh is because there's no storylines other than the storyline of who is going to get voted out this episode. And we talked about this, I think, 2 episodes ago, about how there's no personal storylines, and I feel like this episode really proved that because all the story was about was who's getting voted out.
I agree. Usually, we watch the episodes 2 times. Once I'll watch it for fun. The second time I'll watch it again and then take notes. And this week I was just dreading having to watch it a second time. And the other weeks, oh yeah, I'm so excited to watch it again and really digest the plays, the information that we got, everything that was happening in order to take notes and think of strategy and what is good, what is bad that these people are doing. But yeah, I don't know. I just didn't want to watch it a second time. I was like, I got the information the first time. I don't want to watch it again. And I agree. We don't really know too much about any of these people in all of their preseason interviews, postseason interviews. Everyone is chill. Everyone is cool. Everyone has a personality. So it's in the show when everything is just focused on ABC, here's the rising action, here's the climax, here's the falling action, and no other fluff or character moments to build these people's storylines. I don't know. It was just I don't want to watch it again because I got everything I needed the first time.
It's there's no purpose in watching it again, really, because you won't notice anything different unless you weren't paying attention the first time. So
yeah, and I Australian Survivor just started, and I think what Australian Survivor does so well when you're getting to know these characters on the show is that they have little intro packages of people in their home life. It could be a fake set of oh, this person is a doctor or researcher or whatever, and it shows them in a lab, which could totally be not their real life lab. It's probably a fake set kind of thing, but it's cool to see, oh yeah, I can really visualize this person's job now. I know what they do. They even have people's kids in their intro segments, or this is the athlete sport that they play. And so I really like those intro packages, but it's I don't know any of these people's jobs or personal lives besides when we had that little family TV reward a few episodes ago.
And then we know that Anesu is yoga or does yoga, but we only know that because it was relevant to her knowing someone else on the cast, and then therefore became relevant strategy-wise. So it's it would be nice just to know things about people, to know them, and not necessarily because it has a huge bearing on the overall plot.
Yeah, just little personality things. So I think Australian Survivor does that so well. I wish US Survivor and Survivor South Africa, that's something that they can take from Australian Survivor, because those intro packages are just really cool to visualize who this person is inside and outside of the game. So going into this episode, it starts off where everyone is basically mad about the last tribal council. It was a big blindside, and people really wanted to know the votes. And just, I don't know, this intro segment, I was sort of chill. You aren't entitled to know who voted for who. That's the whole purpose of the game. If whoever, they read out the votes and they were saying, oh, person A voted for this person, person B voted for that person, it takes away a lot of the mystery of the game.
Yeah, that's the whole point of having secret voting, so that you can make moves without worrying about repercussions, or having to deal with the repercussions if someone figures it out. But it's not you're not expected to go back to camp and then be yeah, I voted for this person and this person. I do think it was interesting, though, because since they figured out that Santoni voted for Marisha, but they didn't figure out that Anesu voted for Marisha. That's kind of where some of the central tension of this episode comes from. And so I feel like that's one of those things where that's why secret voting exists. So
Yeah, like Santoni said, she was the scapegoat, not scapevote. But yeah, Anesu did vote with the Rainier group, so it sort of does create that tension. Like, oh, we thought Anesu and Santoni were both with us, but are they actually really with us, or were they both playing us last week? And like we saw last week, people like Amy and Shaun did bring up the fact that they were a little nervous about these people. They might be flipping on them. They might not really have their votes. They might be getting lied to. So people did have those spidey senses going into last week. It's just, I don't know, it's more fun, I feel like, when people come back to camp or if they get blindsided, voted out, and they're like, okay, great job, guys. That was an awesome, epic, wicked move, rather than coming back and being angry about being blindsided.
yeah, I feel like that's where it gets more fun. And I think they kind of talked about this at the end of the episode when they were at Tribal again, but like, you have to respect people for playing a good game and not necessarily get mad at them because their good game conflicts with your good game, you know? And I feel like I've always enjoyed Survivor more, both US and Survivor Australia, when it was based around playing a good game and not just like everyone being mad at each other.
Yeah, separating game moves versus like personal, I hate you as a person, being mean to people kind of thing. In this intro segment also, Nicole was really sad that she played the idol for herself. I felt bad because, yeah, they could have totally saved Marisha as well if they played the idol differently than how they played it. So that must really suck for her. She probably has like survivor's guilt of why I'm still here versus my BFF Marisha got voted out.
Yeah, and I felt bad for her too because it wasn't really her fault. So, yeah, the survivor's guilt was definitely real. I do hope that we get to see more of that kind of as the game goes on, but I feel like it was kind of just a one-off comment and not necessarily the beginning of an arc.
Yeah, Nicole, she needs to avenge Marisha getting idoled out with that idol. And I think that could be an interesting storyline if she comes back like guns blazing. Everyone, yo, I am going to avenge Marisha. You all suck, and I'm going to vote you all out now, kind of thing.
That would be so fun.
Yeah, and so yeah, like you said, it just was a one-off. We don't really even see Nicole for the rest of the episode. At the beginning of the episode, also, we see Shaun being so mad at the camera, and we mentioned it last week in the preview because Shaun was shown to be mad in the preview for this week, and once Shaun started to get so much screen time this first 10 minutes of the episode, I was like, Shaun is going home today.
Yep. It was super obvious that he was the one going home just because, like you said, his screen time noticeably upticked. And I will not complain about the editing again, but man, this editing sure is something.
Yeah, I was like, why? I don't want to watch it a second time. It's like Keon getting voted out also. I don't know. Their editing, you're right. It just upticks their boot episode. At least give them a 2-episode story arc or something. I don't know.
It's like, I understand it because they don't want it at the end of the episode us to be like, who the heck is this? And I feel like the only people that we know a lot about are like Chappies and Santoni at this point, and maybe Smash. But like you said, at least give them a 2-episode arc.
So I was like, oh, not a good thing for Shaun to get numerous confessionals when usually we get like 0 or 1 from him. So we go into the reward challenge, and I guess we must be missing something because we thought in the preview, oh, they were dividing for the immunity challenge and we were going to have 2 separate tribes going to tribal, but this dividing was for the reward challenge. So yeah, yay that we didn't have some weird 2 tribal council, 2 people getting voted out this week. But it was a balancing ball over the obstacles challenge where you win pizza. And I don't know about you, Alyssa, but I feel like all Survivor pizzas, whatever kind of international or domestic version it is, the pizzas always look so gross.
I know, like they always look like Chuck E. Cheese pizza, where it's like the cheese is congealed and the tomato sauce just ugh. Like Nico was trying to make it sound appealing, and I was like, I'm not sure I would eat that even if I was starving, but it's fine.
I was like, okay, yeah, even if you are starving, I would eat it, but I don't know. It's just because is it refrigerated? It just looks like in the blazing sun in those boxes, they are going to become so disgusting and gross because they're not in the refrigerator. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know either, but they really should try to do better.
So I'm like, pizza's so great. And we've had 4 years of dorm pizza, but just looking at the Survivor pizza, I think it might be worse than dorm pizza.
Yeah, it's a toss up. I feel like dorm pizza was bad because it was always under those heating lamps for like hours at a time. And so it's like at least that wasn't. So
It's a similar in the blazing hot sun for hours if they don't take it right out of the cooling centers or the fridges versus dorm pizza always just sitting out. But I would always go to the dining halls right when they opened, so I knew the food was fresh and not been sitting out for hours just getting like dusty.
I tried to go to the dorm halls when it opened, but dining halls when it opened, ugh. Such a tangent, but like I feel like sometimes Survivor reward food is like when they ask, "Is this worth playing for?" I'm like, no, frankly, it's not.
Oh
But
my gosh, it would be so funny if someone said that to any of the hosts. They're like, "Oh, is it worth playing for?" And someone straight up, everyone is like, "Oh my gosh, Applebee's so good." And someone is like, "That's the crappiest food I've ever eaten."
yes, Applebee's is my least favorite sit-down restaurant.
Such good TV. It would be so funny. Someone just hating on the reward and then they end up going to the reward and then eating all of the food.
Obviously. But the interesting thing about this reward challenge was I think last week we said that we wish that the sit out also got a chance to have the reward. And I feel like what they did with this reward challenge was really good because it was like the person on the sit out bench had to guess who was going to win. And it's like they didn't get 100% chance of going on the reward because they had to choose who was going to win, but they also didn't have a 0% chance. So I liked that.
Yeah, Santoni picks the White Rock, so she is on the sit out bench and she gets to pick the winning team. I also like this. I wish they did it more on other versions of Survivor. In the US version, they have done it before, and it's always fun because it's no stakes. It's not like you're risking your vote or you're risking anything to vote, but to pick a winning team to go to the reward challenge with if they did win. And so it's fun, low stakes, and it's a little game. You can risk it.
Yeah, it is. It is fun. I also like that they did the random rock draw for this instead of doing the schoolyard pick. Because I feel like sometimes when there's a schoolyard pick, it becomes like super obvious which team is gonna win. So
Yeah, Santoni picks the winning team, and while she's sitting on the sit out bench, she is also looking for a clue or something underneath the bench, which is also very, very smart because, like we've seen in other versions of Survivor, sometimes they might have advantages on the sit out bench. So good for Santoni for thinking ahead, although like we saw at the reward challenge, she literally says to everyone who wins on the orange team that, hey, let's all look for an advantage or clue together. Yay. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you need to stop and keep your mouth closed. At least she realizes it in her confessionals. She realizes these blunders she keeps making. But yeah, giving up 3 idols and now another idol clue.
yeah, just Santoni, honey, what are you doing? Because like she said, it's like she's now missed a chance at 2 idols, played 1 idol incorrectly, and she seems to have some solid strategies, but she also has some questionable strategies.
Yeah, so Rainier finds this little parchment, and so because he sees it in front of everyone, like everyone notices that he has something, and then he reads it aloud for the whole group. I do wonder if you were maybe more savvy or sneaky, you could have put that in your pants or hid it really quick and then not shared it with the entire group that won the challenge. So, but it's like once they saw that you have the parchment, you have to share. But I do wonder if maybe people were thinking, oh, yeah, if I do find it, I'm actually going to not share it.
Yeah, I feel like it's one of those things where everyone is always expecting there to be a immunity idol clue at the reward, so you have to be really careful or really sneaky if you're hiding a clue. Otherwise, someone might see it and then know what it is, and then you're in more trouble. Because, like, hiding that you have a clue might ultimately get you into more shit than just sharing the clue with everyone.
Exactly. After especially Santoni said, everyone, let's look at the same time, versus, if you were just looking like at the merge feast last week and you found something, it's less likely because no one was really focused on you, versus here, everyone is searching at the same time. And maybe you could have played it off like, oh my gosh, there's not something here. I wonder if anyone found something at the merge feast, because there didn't seem to be any clues or anything at the advantage prior to the merge feast, the family TV advantage, and then the merge feast had something. So it does seem like they just reused the merge feast clue and stuck it here because no one found it last week.
Yeah, so I guess it's good to reduce, reuse, recycle.
They got to get rid of that idol somehow. So the advantage is that there is an idol at Immunity Island, which is interesting because you need to stay and play in order to look for the idol. It's not like the person that got sent there this episode could just look for the idol while they're walking or after. And if they're going to choose to leave, they have to stay and play to do it. So it's sort of a risk and like something that you have to decide to do. And so Rainier asks if he can be sent to Immunity Island. Santoni basically says no. So I'm glad people weren't just being nice and saying no to sending him because it wouldn't be in their best interest. But I was surprised because I was like, people are going to just say yes. So I'm glad people said no.
I'm glad that people don't just go with whatever, because sometimes it feels like they just do whatever they're asked, and it's kind of like, is that really what's best for your game right now?
Mm-hmm.
So,
especially for like the Santoni Tyson on the challenge, realizing, nope, we cannot send you. You're on the opposing alliance. We are not going to do it. So definitely just shutting that down and just thinking of a thing that, oh, everyone who gets the chance to go can do it. It's fair game. We aren't going to dictate who can go and who can't go. It's just whoever wins the next challenge gets to pick.
yeah. So, good times.
Be mean, yes. So we go into the immunity challenge. It's a memory game from the time Anasu went to Immunity Island. We know she's good at memory, plus she talked about going to med school and being good at memorizing. I am so surprised. Kieran, back for back immunity wins. He is very good at challenges we saw last week with endurance, and it shows he's good at memory too. So this guy is a triple threat.
Yeah, I would not want Kieran around, because it seems like, I feel like his name never came up as someone who was like going to be a challenge beast, at least in like the pre-merge stuff. But I'm hoping that soon someone brings up that Kieran is a challenge threat, just because back-to-back challenge wins is nothing to sniff at.
Yeah, I do wonder if it went through his mind to maybe throw it to Anesu to maybe get a little bit of target off of his back. But it also seems like his name doesn't really come up in conversation because we do see him talking with the Rainier crew as well. So he's like sort of in with them, but also he does have a target on his back for being with Tyson and Warda as well. So it is a little bit risky, but I mean, if you're safe with the immunity necklace, no one can vote you out, but it could be sort of like a situation where the first time you lose immunity, people want to target you because they think you're super good at everything, which could or could not be the case. Kieran is seemingly good at numerous things, but maybe he's not good at everything. And so people building him up to be a challenge beast isn't warranted. But when you're 2 for 2, you have nothing else to go off of.
Yeah, so maybe next time, even if he does have a chance at the challenge, he'll throw it if he feels like, that'll be good for his game in the long run. So,
Could be. It seems like maybe he didn't throw it to Anesu because later in the episode, we hear Anesu say that her people, as in like Tyson, Kieran, and them, didn't tell her that there was an idol at Immunity Island, but Amy or someone else was telling Anesu that, oh, yeah, they found a clue at the reward challenge. There's an advantage at Immunity Island. So maybe that's why he didn't throw it, because Kieran wanted to have the power to send someone there. So Kieran wins. He sends Warda to Immunity Island. Warda does not stay and play. She gives up and goes, and she comes back to keep her vote.
yeah, and I like that, again, there's more strategy to this stay and play versus go back. So I like that people are using the strategy, especially because it would be really easy to selfishly be like, no, I'm going to stay so I can maybe get an advantage. So props to their group for sticking together. And
which goes to show Warda is a team player. Tyson last week was a team player, and they aren't just going to be like, F you all. I'm going to win everything. I want an advantage for myself. I want an idol for tonight to be 100% safe rather than bequeathing this idol. But I can see when the numbers start to dwindle and it gets more down to the nitty gritty, if it's like 3 versus 5 or something, if you're in the 3 and you get sent, you really should just be selfish, because it's going to be you or your other person's going to get voted out. So it's a little bit more risky there. But I do feel like it is risky for the Kieran, Warda, and Tyson trio, because it is getting picked out by people like, oh, these 3 are close. They keep sending each other to Immunity Island. They keep playing the bequeathed idols for one another. So I think that can be a little bit risky. But if Kieran keeps on winning, he can send someone to Immunity Island. They can either stay and play to get safety also, or give up and go and then give someone else safety. And so if, say, next week they stayed and played, they would all 3 be safe, because they would find the idol at Immunity Island. The person who stayed and played might lose their vote, but it doesn't matter because they're also safe. And Kieran would have the immunity necklace from the immunity challenge. So I don't know. It is risky to be pegged as a threesome, but like, if Kieran keeps winning, he can technically sort of save people.
yeah, I feel like a threesome is not as dangerous to be as like a foursome, because the more people that you have, the harder it is to keep everyone in your alliance safe. So one of the good things about being like a solid pair is that it's really easy to keep both of you safe if you play it right. Mm-hmm. So I feel like that's kind of the good thing for the threesome, is that it's really easy to keep all of them safe, or relatively easy with the amount of like immunities that are floating around and stuff.
Yeah, you just have to keep finding idols. Tyson has had 2 idols. If they get sent to Immunity Island again, you have that idol if the person stays in plays. So it is risky. I think like people are calling them out as a threesome, but they have a route to continue to be safe. But I do worry, because it does seem like Anesu seems like or realizes she might not be as close as she thought she was. And so maybe that threesome need to do a better job at making Anesu feel like she's super safe. But also, Anesu and Warda know of each other from the yoga world. Anesu and Kieran knew of each other from university. So they're all like acquaintances in that regard. So it does depend. Would Anesu stick with them because they are acquaintances, versus would she flip on them and go with the people that she doesn't really know in real life? I feel like having that acquaintanceship bond sort of outweighs strangers, even if you feel like you might not be as in with them or they're not making you feel as safe.
Yeah, but I guess it's one of those things where when you're in an alliance, you always want the people at the bottom not to know that they're at the bottom. So they should be better at that.
I agree. I do wish we saw some more from Anesu because it does seem like coming up, her and Santoni are going to be the swing votes, which could be as early as next week. We hear Anesu telling Amy she wants to work with the Amy Rainier group, but not this episode. Like, we have to vote one of you out this week, and maybe next week I'll flip and vote with you all. But that is Anesu talking with Amy, so we don't really know if anything she was saying there is true, and she could have just been BSing Amy and trying to like pretend to play the middle still, even if she is fully with the Tyson group. So I do wish we saw some confessional to hear her thoughts, whether is she truly with the Tyson group or is she thinking of potentially flipping? Because whenever you hear people talking in groups, you can never take it at face value because they're probably lying or like, you know, not telling the truth, especially if it's cross-alliance talk.
Yeah, and so I feel like that's another bad thing with the editing. I feel like we don't get the confessionals that we need to get to understand the whole story. So,
speaking of the middle, Santoni, like we saw at the beginning of the episode, she was mad at being the scapegoat. I said scapegoat again. So the scapegoat. And this is, like we were saying, the tension of the episode. We see Amy saying, oh, we need Santoni to flip. Santoni's in the middle. Shaun says Santoni is untrustworthy and a flipper, so we need to vote her out. I do worry for Santoni because, like, Shaun wanted to vote her out this time because she is playing the middle. I think playing the middle is so hard, and Santoni could have easily been flipped on if both of the alliances came together and decided to vote her out, sort of similar to, like, Sarah getting voted out in Brain Brawn Beauty.
yeah, it's like one of those things where you have to play the middle very delicately in order for it to work well. So I think that even though she did not end up going home tonight, she's definitely going to have to do better about, I don't know, risk management, perception management, because I feel like her name ends up coming up a lot. So
yeah, and especially being in the middle, like, you're needed, but you're also expendable if people are like, you're so annoying, I want to vote you out because we can't trust you. And I do worry when it comes down to final tribal council, if you're a flip-flopper and you're sitting there next to someone who was clearly in one alliance or another, so if she was there next to Tyson or if Santoni was there with like Rainier or Amy or Smash, who are clearly in one alliance, I think you're probably going to lose against that other person because even if you can vocalize how difficult playing a middle game is, I feel like people on the jury might be annoyed because every single week they come to you and they think that they have your vote, but then you backstab them because you flip-flop each week. That I think it could be really annoying to play with and work with because you can never fully trust that person. And especially if you're next to Tyson or you're next to Amy, all of their friends are on the jury. Like, how are you going to win that vote? I feel like Santoni needs to sit next to someone more disliked, which would be like Chappies or something. But if you're sitting next to anyone else, I feel like you can't vocalize how difficult a middle game is because people are just going to think you're a flip-floppy, sketchy person that isn't trustworthy.
exactly. So I don't know. I feel like she needs to stake a claim because people in the middle of the road sometimes get run over. So
yeah, you got to pick a side. Otherwise, people aren't going to like it. I think this episode was such a good episode for Amy. She gets a lot of really positive screen time. She says later in the episode, we can't vote out Santoni because we need her. And so if we voted Santoni this time, obviously we're going to be in the minority. Santi would know that we all betrayed her and voted for her. She would never flip to work with us. And so good for Amy for realizing that. And they switched the vote to Warda. And Amy realizes we do need Santoni, even if she is annoying as a flipper middle person, but we need her, and she can potentially bring Chappies over to our side, which I truly think Santoni is going to flip next week. Anesu maybe also might flip, but I do think going into next week, Santoni would flip, and they need to vote out someone of the Kieran, Tyson, Warda / Anesu group.
yeah, I think that's exactly right. So I guess I feel like that's the only sort of uncertainty, and I'm hoping for another alliance shakeup thing. So
yeah, otherwise it's like middle flip-flopper, reverse, I guess, pagonging. I don't know. The middle people just keep flipping every week to narrow down each side, which, yeah, I don't know. I think if I were in that situation where you can never fully trust someone because they keep flipping, it would be so annoying. I just want to vote them out because better off without you.
Yeah.
So we go, Kieran wants to vote out Smash as an idea because Kieran realizes that Smash is the glue that really holds the Rainier, Smash, Amy, Nicole group together. Santoni wants to vote out Shaun. So good for Santoni for playing for herself. She has that connection with Smash and Amy from their first tribe swap tribe. So she is staking her claim and wants to keep those two around. And seems like Santoni doesn't like Shaun for whatever reason this episode. So Santoni wants to vote out Shaun. And I think it was good for Kieran also not pushing back and trying to keep saying, we need to vote Smash. We have to do this. Like we said, you just won 2 immunities. And if you keep pushing, someone like Santoni could flip. And we see Kieran saying Santoni is very insecure in the alliance, even though we've voted with her many times before, but we need to appease her. Which honestly, if Santoni is doing that as an act, good for her because she got her way this vote. And people think, I don't know, maybe it's not good to be thought as or perceived as insecure and like flippy like that, but Santoni got what she wanted, and she got this other nemesis in Shaun out.
Yeah, and I think like Shaun getting out doesn't seem like that big of a deal from the perspective of a viewer, just because Shaun has been so like absent from the edit. But I guess good for Santoni for getting out who she wanted to get out, I guess.
Yeah, it's like for us as the viewer standpoint, it did seem like Shaun was at the bottom of the Rainier, Amy, Smash, Nicole foursome, which is sort of crappy because it would have been interesting if Shaun maybe was also realizing that and then he flipped or something to work with the Tyson group, or maybe that could just be the edit and Shaun was a lot more connected with that group than we see as the viewers. So yeah, I don't know. It just seems for Santoni fine because like she got what she wanted for whatever reason, but from a viewer's standpoint, I don't know. Kieran had the right idea. Smash is way more powerful, I feel like.
Yeah, but I feel like that's one of those things where you can also argue the more powerful people are easier to get out later on in the game. Mm-hmm. And sometimes picking off their numbers, like picking off Shaun, makes it easier to then get them out because you can be like, oh, well, now Smash is weaker and he doesn't have as many people on his side and he's still dangerous, so let's get him out now. So, yeah.
I agree because leaving those big threats in, you know there'll be a target next week, so you can rally people behind you to continue to vote them out, and people will realize, yeah, we can't let Smash get to the end kind of thing, versus if you leave quote, goats in the game, which Shaun, I guess, doesn't qualify for that. But if you leave people who can't win in the game, you're not going to vote them out later because you're going to use them and they're going to take seat number 2 at Final Tribal, seat number 3 at Final Tribal, which takes away the seats from the actual people playing the game super hard. So, it is an interesting thing. Like, do you vote out the losers now or do you wait and then it becomes too late to vote out the winners?
Yeah, so it's definitely going to be interesting to see what happens because I do think if Smash does get much further, he does have a good chance of winning. But I also hope that he doesn't get that much further because it seems like people realize that he's a threat. So,
yeah, honestly, it seems like a lot of the people left do have good winner potential. I feel like everyone besides Nicole has gotten a lot of hype and a lot of screen time. Even Warda, who I feel like we haven't seen too much of. Last episode, Smash wanted to vote her out and people were saying, yeah, she's such a jury threat. She's going to win. So perception there, Warda even is potential to win the game. And I feel like we've seen so much from everyone else this season that they all have good chances. Besides Nicole, I feel like we haven't seen too much from her.
I do always think it's weird how, like, people on the season will say, like, oh, so-and-so is a jury threat, because it's like we really only have their word to take for it, because it's really hard to, I guess, edit someone as a jury threat, because it's hard to show someone's like positive social skills in a way that's not boring to watch.
Which is opposite of Rainier, because I think for us as viewers, we see Rainier having such a great social game. He's getting a lot of information. Everyone likes him. But in the game, no one has brought up Rainier's name as being the leader. No one has brought up his name of, we need to vote him out. He's going to win the game. Smash is getting that kind of wording from people on the tribe. So it is interesting. Like, is Rainier actually doing, I guess, like, I don't know. We know he's doing these good things, but the perception of him on the island isn't winner potential. So it'll be interesting, like, how do you balance that at Final Tribal? Because you can say you did all these things, but if people don't believe you or if you don't say them well, you're not going to get the votes.
Yeah, like it's a weird balancing act where you can't be enough winner potential threat that people will vote you out. But you have to be good enough that then when you get to Final Tribal, people are like, yes, this person deserves to win.
So interesting. So we're going into the home stretch for this season, which is also so exciting. US Survivor has a premiere date set for September, which is so exciting. I'm so excited. I just keep saying that word, to do some cast assessments, boot lists, and everything for US Survivor. Australian Survivor started last week, and so that's 3 episodes a week. I'm like, it's so good.
It's like we had this drought of Survivor content for so long, and now we've reached the oasis. We get to drink.
Yeah, so this was our recap of episode 9. Definitely let us know in the comments if you have any questions. What are your thoughts with the edit? What are your thoughts with Shaun getting voted out? Definitely let us know, and we will see you all next week.
Bye.